Tennessee lost one of the top-rated quarterbacks in the 2023 class?
Yep, 2023.
He was the number 2 overall behind a guy named Arch Manning. You may have heard of him. Nico Iamaleava was a splash type of a splash signee, a splash commitment, but he was also a very, very talented player. So you lost a very, very talented player, and Tennessee's quarterback situation is bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. Their quarterback situation is the best in the SEC, and I'll take it a step further. Their quarterback unit depth, however you want to put it, is the best on Tennessee's football team. And that's with Tennessee losing Nico, because I think we all like Joey Aguilar. I think that he's probably going to be the starter, has some talent, and you would think would have some leadership moxie and some experience going through junior college and all that good stuff. And then you have 2 other guys. One is a 4-star in Jake Merklinger, and then McIntyre was a 5, correct?
Fringe 5, depending on where you went by.
Okay, so I don't even want to get into the fact that Faison Brandon could come into the fold. But Tennessee's quarterback situation, despite losing Nico, is absolutely the best in the SEC and is one of the best in the nation, which sounds insane to say, Caleb. But if Nico, let's just say as a prospect, was an A+, and Joey Aguilar, from all I hear, is at least a B+, then you've got solid backups in Merklinger. You've got your quarterback for the future in George McIntyre. Guys, it sounds strange to say, but it's almost a golden era as far as Tennessee quarterbacks. It reminds me of the Brandon Stewart, Peyton Manning, Todd Helton days. And you're just not going to see this type of depth very often because of the transfer portal. You can only play one quarterback. Nobody wants to sit and watch another dude play.
So I'll bring this up. And I have a column on this too, which is that Tennessee, if you guys look at it, they have the best backup quarterback situation in the SEC this year. Because you're right. I don't know any other SEC school that has 3 legitimate options to play quarterback. Now, somebody is going to jump on the message board, Dave, and go, they had 3 options last year because Gaston Moore was on the team. And I'm like, okay, if yes, Gaston Moore was technically the backup, but Dave, if Nico Iamaleava had gone down, you and I both know Hype would have turned to Merklinger at that point if he had to turn to him for like a period of time in the season. Like Gaston, yeah. So
I don't know that I would go that far, because I think Gaston Moore could have manned the ship and knew what he was doing. I don't know yet. I'm not discounting him. I don't know Merklinger, but at some point you're probably making the move for the more talented guy. I'll give you that.
Right, exactly. So this year they have 3 legitimate starting SEC starting caliber quarterbacks. And that's rare. That was even rare back in the day. I mean, Dave, outside of 94 with Peyton Manning, Brandon Stewart, Todd Helton, and Jerry Colquitt, 4 guys, how often has Tennessee had more than, even in the former years, did they ever usually have more than 2 that you thought could legitimately start in the SEC?
No, and they would always say, you want to take a quarterback in every class, and I used to laugh at that, because what quarterback wants to come if there's somebody starting above him? Sam says, I'll take B+ with 4 years experience over Nico all day long. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, and sometimes there was only one. I would think the only time you had like multiple options at quarterback was you could theoretically say 04 with Eric Ainge, Brent Schaefer, and then Rick Clausen coming in. I still question that Rick Clausen
wasn't any better than Gaston Moore.
Yes, I think Rick Clausen was severely
better. And Brent Schaefer was slight. He was small when he showed up, and learned pretty quickly he had some character issues as well.
Yeah. I think that Rick Clausen, in his defense, not Rick Clausen, excuse me, Josh Heupel and Tennessee, to a certain degree, I really do think that I think the big thing this year is there's not going to be an issue in quarterback, because, look, if Joey Aguilar is not going to work, Josh Heupel's not going to stick with him. He's got two other options. Josh Heupel has shown in the past he's willing to move on from a quarterback that's not working. Now, again, we can criticize the Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker decision, and I've beaten that drum, and I'm not going to stop beating it for as long as I live because I still think it's one of the most ridiculous decisions ever made by a coach. But Heupel did make a switch pretty quickly into the season that year. I mean, 2 games in, he said, all right, I'm going with Hendon Hooker. This guy's better. And so he is willing to do that. So if he's in that situation this year, then he's got multiple options to go to if something happens. And also, I want to point this out. No Tennessee quarterback has yet gone a whole season under Heupel without getting hurt and pulled from the game for at least a period of time. That had every single season under Heupel that's happened.
Yeah, but that's coincidental.
I think there are some layers.
How was Milton hurt?
Milton got hurt week 2 against Pittsburgh in the first season, and that's when Hendon Hooker came in, and Heupel decided Hendon was better.
Right, but how did he get hurt? I'm trying to remember.
I can't. It was on some play where he got hit late, and I think he fumbled. So
okay, well, I mean, there's nothing you could have done about Hendon Hooker's injury. That was a non-contact injury that just happened. So I don't think you're necessarily saying that Tennessee's definitely going to play a backup quarterback this year. But I definitely think you want one. There are going to be teams year in and year out. There are going to be 3 or 4 teams year in and year out. They lose their starting quarterback, and because of the transfer portal, they're done. You just might as well just call it a season. I mean, that's going to happen. It would be the equivalent of Michael Jordan getting hurt early in the season when he did, actually, at one point. I mean, you're just not going to compete for a championship with a backup quarterback at 90% of the schools out there.
No, you aren't. By the way, that Bulls team got to the playoffs at 30-52 that year. But yeah, I mean, yes, I agree. I think Tennessee is a rare situation where that's not the case. And I thought that was more the case last year. I think if a quarterback gets hurt, they have options. I know people are worried about George McIntyre, but he's a scholarship quarterback on your roster. So if you have to go to him, shouldn't you be able to if he's a fringe 5-star?
Yeah. Now, I want to go. I want to go to a couple. There's a debate on the message board that Texas has a better quarterback situation. You could argue South Carolina has a better quarterback situation because they have better starting quarterbacks, right?
Right, because yes, and I'm not denying that.
Yeah, but we're taking this as a group. I don't think there's any question if you gave Josh Heupel truth serum that he would say, "Hey, I would take Arch Manning over the 3 guys I got, or I would take Lenora Sellers over the 3 guys I got." Would you argue that?
No, he would absolutely take Arch Manning, which is why it was funny that Nico wanted Lenora Sellers' money, because I think he would have taken I think he would have taken Lenora Sellers over Nico.
Probably. Maybe they could have worked that trade out with California, or with South Carolina, USC. I don't know. I think Sellers is going to be really good. I've talked to some NFL scouts about him, and he maybe is even better than I thought in the offseason and from what I saw last season. Archie Manning, though, however, is the cream of the crop, right?
Yeah, Archie Manning is the gold standard of the quarterbacks you want. So I think that when you consider Arch Manning as the gold standard, you would say that's probably the best. And Texas does have 2 other 4-star quarterbacks on the roster, a redshirt freshman and a true freshman. None of them have any sort of in-game experience, though, whereas Jake Merklinger has legitimate experience now in a system. So I would say with that in mind, you could look at the situation at Tennessee and say there's more experience on that roster, which is why I would say the quarterback situation is better. Both have one highly talented true freshman who hasn't played a game yet. So I think with all of this being said, I think it's hard to look at, and where this all came up, by the way, is that Will Balkus of CBS recently did a list on the top 10 backup quarterbacks in, I believe it was the SEC, and nobody from Tennessee was on there. So I kind of go down and look, and I'm like, okay, you can maybe say Tennessee doesn't have one of the top 10 backup quarterbacks if it's just your 1 number 2 quarterback. But how many have a number 2 and a number 3 option, which Tennessee has? That's just not a thing. And so with that in mind, I think that, again, Texas, that is true. That's a good one. Texas has 3 legitimate options in terms of highly touted recruits. Tennessee's, I believe, are more highly touted. I think George McIntyre is more highly touted than Carl Lacey or Trey Owens. So when you take that into account, I don't really think who are the two Texas backup quarterbacks, by the way, to Arch Manning. So when you take all of that into account, I don't think there's any way you could look at Tennessee situation and think, wow, they're in really, really good shape. They have at the bare minimum 3 options of somebody who's bound to work out at quarterback. And if George McIntyre can't work out as a true freshman, if they absolutely have to go to him, well, then why'd you recruit him? I mean, I know he was a stick, but yeah.